Have you ever wondered why remembering names is so important? It's not just about avoiding that awkward moment when you draw a blank on someone's name. Names, you see, are far more than just arbitrary labels. They are a significant part of our identity, a core element of who we are. When you remember someone's name correctly, it's an immediate sign of respect and interest in them as an individual. It shows that you've taken the time to engage with them on a personal level and that their identity matters to you. And let's not forget the first impression we make. Calling someone by their name upon your first meeting can set the tone of your relationship moving forward, demonstrating that you value them as a unique individual. So, you see, remembering names is not just a social nicety, it's a key component in building meaningful relationships. After all, a person's name is the sweetest sound to them in any language. So, what's the psychology behind remembering names? Let's dive in. Have you ever heard of the Baker-Baker paradox? It's a fascinating concept in the world of cognitive psychology. The paradox goes something like this. If you meet two people, one who is a baker and another whose last name is Baker, you're more likely to remember the person who is a baker than the person named Baker. Strange, right? But there's a reason for this. When you hear that someone is a baker, your brain connects that information to a host of related concepts: bread, pastries, early mornings, and so on. But when you hear that someone's name is Baker, it's just a random label with no inherent meaning. This is the crux of the Baker-Baker paradox, and it highlights a key principle of memory. We're much better at remembering things that we can associate with existing knowledge or experiences. Now let's talk about attention and emotional connections. Our brains are wired to pay more attention to things that are emotionally charged. That's why we remember emotionally intense experiences, like a thrilling roller coaster ride or a heart-wrenching movie, more vividly than mundane events. When it comes to names, however, they're usually devoid of emotional content, which makes them easy to forget. This brings us to another point. Names are abstract and arbitrary. They don't tell us anything about a person's appearance, personality, or job. Unlike other types of information, they don't trigger a mental image or connect to our existing knowledge. This lack of context makes them slippery for our memory. So, why are names so hard to remember? Well, it's a combination of these factors: the abstract nature of names, the lack of emotional charge, and the absence of meaningful associations. But don't despair. Understanding the science of memory can help us devise strategies to better remember names, and that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of this video. Stay tuned. Here are some scientifically proven techniques to help you remember names. Let's start with repetition. The more frequently you use a person's name, the more likely you are to remember it. When you meet someone new, try to use their name a few times during the conversation. For instance, say "Nice to meet you, John," instead of just "Nice to meet you." A few minutes later, you might say, "John, that's an interesting point you made." This repetition reinforces the connection between the person and their name in your mind. Next is association. This technique involves connecting a person's name with something familiar. For example, if you meet a woman named Lily, you might associate her name with a lily flower. This connection can make the name easier to recall later. The association should be something that makes sense to you, even if it might seem strange to someone else. Visualization is another effective technique. This involves creating a mental image that links the person to their name. If you meet a man named Peter, you might picture him standing on a rock, since Peter means rock in Greek. The more vivid and unique the image, the more likely you are to remember the name. These techniques operate on the principle of meaningfulness. The more meaning you attach to a name, the easier it is to remember. So try to find a way to make each name meaningful to you. This could involve thinking about how the name sounds, what it reminds you of, or what images it brings to mind. It's also worth noting that these techniques work best when you're fully present during the introduction. So, make sure to give your full attention when someone is introducing themselves. Show genuine interest in the person and their name. This not only helps you remember the name, but also creates a positive impression. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you use these techniques, the better you'll get at remembering names. It might feel awkward at first, but with time, it will become second nature. With these techniques, you can turn a forgettable introduction into a memorable encounter. What impact does remembering names have on our relationships? Let's delve into this question. When we remember someone's name, it's an affirmation of their identity, a subtle nod to their uniqueness. It tells them, "You matter. You are important enough for me to remember." This small act can foster stronger connections as it demonstrates a genuine interest in the person. In a world where we're inundated with information, remembering a name stands out as a sign of respect and attentiveness. Moreover, it builds trust. When someone remembers your name, it signals that they are reliable and considerate. It's a demonstration of their commitment to the relationship, whether it's professional or personal. Trust is the bedrock of any relationship, and remembering names is a simple yet powerful way to establish it. Beyond building trust, remembering names creates a positive impression. It says, "I value this relationship enough to remember your name." It's an act of courtesy that can open doors, create opportunities, and foster goodwill. Whether you're in a business meeting, a networking event, or a casual social gathering, remembering names can set you apart and leave a lasting positive impression. But what happens when we forget names? Well, it can inadvertently lead to feelings of insignificance in the other person. It might suggest to them that they are not important or memorable enough. This can lead to a psychological impact, potentially damaging the relationship. It's not just about feeling embarrassed, it's about the message it sends to the other person. So, the impact of remembering names on relationships is profound. It's not just about memory, it's about respect, trust, and connection. It's about seeing the other person, recognizing their individuality, and affirming their importance. It's about demonstrating that you value their relationship and are committed to it. Remembering names, therefore, is more than just a memory trick. It's a powerful tool for building stronger, more meaningful relationships. So, why is remembering names so important? Let's recap. We've discovered that names hold immense power. They are more than mere labels. They reflect our identity, our individuality. We've delved into the psychology behind remembering names, understanding that it's not just about memory, but also about attention, respect, and empathy. We've explored various techniques to remember names, from association and visualization to repetition and active engagement. These tools can turn the daunting task of name recall into a manageable and even enjoyable exercise. Most importantly, we've seen the profound impact of remembering names on relationships. Whether personal or professional, relationships thrive on acknowledgement and understanding. Remembering someone's name is a simple yet significant step in that direction. By understanding the importance of names and learning how to remember them, you can enhance your personal and professional relationships in ways you may not have imagined. So, make the effort, remember names, and watch the magic unfold.